going to read you a list of 10 numbers and 10 words. I want you to remember the number and the word that goes with it. Number 2 is light. Number 5 is student. Number 10 is face. Number 4 is watch. Number 7 is floor. Number 6 is color. Number 9 is road. I hope they're not all beginning to drift away. Number 1 is orange. Number 8 is table. Number 3 is glass. I want you to pick up your pens to answer some questions, and don't write yet, because the first question that I want you to answer is, what is the number between 1 and 10 that you think I might have left out during that list? And then I want you to write down the number 5 and the word that went next to it. Number 1 and the word that went next to it. Number 9 and the word. Number 2 and the word. Number 10 and the word. Number 4 and the word. Number 7 and the word. Number 3 and the word. Number 6 and the word. And finally, number 8 and the word. Now, check your answers. Don't worry if you didn't do too well on that test. Most people, in fact, score only between about nothing and 4. But by the end of the program, I hope to have given you a system which will enable you to get a perfect score on fairly simple tests such as that. But next I want to do another brief test, and this is to see how your memory works during a period of learning. Now, I'm going to read a list of words, and I want you to try to remember them in order. It's going to be a long list. You won't be able to remember all of them, so simply try to remember as many of them as you possibly can. Don't write down, just use your head. Room, the, thought, of, and, work, there, the, best, Muhammad Ali, of, well, method, this, and, fur, does, of, and, trap, the, even, face. Now I imagine that the words that you have remembered from that list are probably the following. You'll have remembered more from the beginning, a little bit more from the words at the end. There'll have been a big uncomfortable sag in the middle, and you'll have remembered those words that were repeated. The, and, of. You will also tended to have remembered the one word or phrase which was outstanding. What was it? Right, Muhammad Ali. Now what this little graph shows is that our memory and our understanding really don't work in exactly the same way. You probably understood all of the words, but certainly didn't remember them all. Now what we have to do is to make sure that when we want to learn, when we want to study, to read any technical papers or whatever, that the memory and the understanding are working in best harmony. And in order to do this, you have to break your study period down into smaller sections. Imagine this as a 2-hour period. You would break it down into 4 half-hour periods with a little break in between. These periods give us a much greater recall during the learning period. Memory and recall and understanding are in perfect harmony. And they also give us a break, which means that in each little period we're going to be more relaxed, more comfortable, so that as the learning period progresses, our recall is maintained exceptionally highly. This then is recall during a learning period. What happens after the learning period? This is a graph of representations of people saying how they felt that their own memories worked after a learning period. Some people feel that it goes straight in one ear, right out the other, in other words, that they forget almost immediately. Others feel that they have variations, slopes going down, and others that they maintain for a little while and then more gradually slope off. Fortunately, none of these are correct. What actually happens is that at the point that we stop learning, our recall begins to rise. So if we had a half an hour learning period, within about 5 minutes, our recall would rise. This is because our mind is integrating all the information we've taken in, putting it together, so that after that 5 minutes, when it's totally organized, our recall is the highest. It's only after this that it begins to drop. And the drop is unfortunately a fairly major one. We lose 80% of the information within 1 day of our learning. How do we prevent this really dramatic decline? Now, fortunately, the graph shows us how. If at this high point you review for a few minutes what you've studied in the half-hour period, the decline is halted, and your recall remains high for at least a day. If after 24 hours you review again for only a couple of minutes, the recall will last up to a week. And if again you review after a week, it will last for a month. And after a month's review, it will tend to go on for almost ever. Now, what do I mean by review? What I mean is that we take a blank piece of paper, jot down everything you can possibly remember from the learning period, and then compare it with either your original notes or the notes that you made on subsequent reviews. Now you take the notes, compare and contrast, fill in whatever needs to be filled in, correct your errors, and keep that set of notes which is best for your continuing review. After a few of these reviews, you will find that in fact your memory is long-term memory. It will be the same kind as you have for remembering your own name, your own address. So fortunately, the more information you have up here, the more you can grab and link in to new information. The more you know, the more you are able to know. Now, how does this affect us as we grow older? We start off as a bundle of open-ended opportunities. As a young child, our ability continues to improve. Through teenagehood, we get better and better. Between the ages of 18 and 25, we reach the peak. From that point on, society tells us that it's unfortunately all downhill. As a matter of fact, some of us at this time proudly proclaim that our memories are getting worse, we can't remember dates, names, faces, that we're just not as sharp as we used to be. Society also at this time prepares us, as we approach 60 and 65, to retire. It's assumed that we can no longer really function mentally well. Now this graph shows us our mental abilities as we grow and then grow older. It shows that everything declines: memory, verbal ability, mathematical ability. Fortunately, it's not an accurate graph. We can, in fact, reverse the processes. By reviewing, by constantly exercising our minds, by being creative, we can once again reach that peak. And at any stage in our life, we can pull the whole thing up and continue to improve for as long as we live. Now, we know that memory works three major ways. Firstly, it works in short bursts. Secondly, that if we review, it can be maintained. And thirdly, that as we get older, it does not have to get worse, it can improve. But what about the actual mechanism of memory itself? Memory works by linking, by associations. So that if I say to you the word music, this will bring to your mind all kinds of memories, all kinds of associations. Memories are made of this. Now, the Greeks knew about these associations, and they worked out a series of little mnemonic systems, as they called them, for remembering all kinds of different things. They're the same kind of systems that the stage magicians use, that the mental wizards use. And I'm now going to teach you one of those little systems. It's called the number rhyme system, and in this system, you take the numbers from 1 to 10, and next to each number, you place a rhyming link keyword. The rhyme, obviously, is similar to the sound of the number, so you have, for example, 1 gun, 2 shoe, and so on. Now, next to your numbers and your rhyming words, you place the words that you are asked to remember, and you form linked images between the rhyming words and those words you have to remember. These linked images must be imaginative, perhaps humorous, certainly absurd, definitely exaggerated. They must enable you, in other words, to clearly get a picture in your mind of the link that you're forming, so that you can, of course, remember. Now let's try a few of those. Say we have the number 4, and we're asked to remember the word shell. What's the rhyming word for 4? The answer, door. Now here you have to make an image which you can remember. So you combine door and shell. Try imagining, for example, that your bedroom door is not a bedroom door, but a massive shell. And that as you walk into your bedroom, you are walking through a major shell. Now make sure that that image is clearly seen on your inner eye. Next, the number 7, rhyming word heaven, and you're asked to remember lever. You might here imagine yourself with a gigantic lever desperately trying to break into the doors of heaven. Now make sure that that image is very clear in your mind. Next, the number 2, rhyming word shoe. You have to remember the word plane. This is an aeroplane, so imagine your shoe with 2 enormous wings so that you make your shoe into a flying one. And again, try to hold that clearly in your inner eye. Number 9, the rhyming word is vine. The word you have to remember, train. Perhaps you could try hanging trains off the vine itself instead of grapes. So you have a large vine with trains hanging off it as fruit. Number 8, gate. Here you have to remember the word matchsticks. Imagine that that whole gate is actually made of gigantic matchsticks and that they're on fire. Number 3, rhyming word tree. The word you have to remember, leaf. This is a dangerous one because it's almost too sensible. So what you have to do is to make it absurd. You take tree, strip it of all the leaves, and put one gigantic leaf on the top. Next, number 1, rhyming word gun. word you have to remember, tar. Imagine that gun turning around and spraying masses of tar from out of the television all over your living room. Next, number 6, sticks. The word you have to remember, moon. Here you might try imagining the astronauts trying to land on the moon and being completely prevented by all those sticks sticking up and getting in the way of their landing craft. Number 5, rhyming word hive. The word you have to remember, hair. You could perhaps here try remembering a gigantic beehive hairstyle with lots of bees coming out of it and bothering the person underneath the hairstyle. And then finally, number 10, hen. Word you have to remember is field. Now again, this could be almost too sensible, so make it absurd. Have a tiny, tiny field in which you have placed an absolutely enormous hen. Now I want to test you on those. So again, take your pencils and try to write down the rhyming word and the number that I gave you and the word that I asked you to remember with the number and the rhyming word. So I'm going to give you the numbers, you then write down the rhyming word and the word that we connected as an image. First then, number 2, the rhyming word and the image we connected with it. Next, number 7. The rhyme should be comparatively easy for you to pick out, and if you're having difficulty, check quickly through the alphabet and then put the word that we connected as an image with it. Number 10, put down the rhyming word and the image connected. Next, number 8. Rhyming word and the other word. Number 6. If you have any difficulty with one, don't stay on it. Go on to the others. You can always go back a little bit later. Number 5, the rhyming word and the word with it. Number 3, number 1, number 4, once again, first the rhyming word and then the image that we connected. And finally, number 9. Now that you've completed those, check your own answers. When you're checking these, give yourself 1 mark for the rhyming word, 1 mark for the word that you've connected with it. So you'll mark yourself out of a total of 20. Well, how did you do? I imagine that you probably did a lot better than you did in the first test. Now, the reason for this is that in the first one you had no system at all, that your mind was groping around for those lost words and was almost literally in a mental void, a mental vacuum. In the last one you had a system which was related to the way your mind works. You were able to link things together. Now so far you've only had one small system, but there are a large number of others, and these others enable you to remember things like lists of up to 100 and sometimes even up to 1,000. They enable you to remember names and faces. They also enable you to remember dates, shopping lists, telephone numbers, almost anything that you want to remember. These systems are outlined in various books, and it's certainly well worth learning them and learning how to improve your memory. The point about the systems is that it isn't actually they that enable you to do the remembering, it's your mind itself. The systems reflect part of the mechanism of your mind. It's your mind that does it, especially when you let it know how.